Rocky Mountain, North Carolina. He wears number 65, Landon Root.
Well, I appreciate it, Bill. I always enjoy talking to you.
Let's welcome in Wade Boggs.
Let's bring in Will the Thrill. He's the ace of the staff. Let's welcome in Logan Webb. Logan, how are you today?
I'm doing good. Good to be on here.
Welcome to Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Giants sweep the LA Dodgers.
Sponsored by Lunardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply the best. Right here on your exclusive home of the San Francisco Giants. KNBR, the sports leader.
Giants can make it a winning road trip with a victory here. As Adames swings and rolls it right to short. This should do it. Abrams has it, and the throw on to first will end the ball game. The Giants, after scoring 17 runs in the first two games here in Washington, D.C., are shut out here in the series and road trip finale.
All right, welcome into a Sunday edition of the Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Laskey. After the first two games where the Giants were slugging, scoring 30, having 31 hits, 17 runs, they couldn't muster one run today as they got shut out in the third game here in Washington at National Park. And they got 8 hits. They had opportunities in 6 different innings to score. They were 0 for 11 in runners in scoring position, and it just looked like the team was flat today. When you looked at a couple players, really, Willie Adames just looked tired to me. His swing looked tired. He just needed a day off. And Dave Fleming kind of mentioned it on the TV side. Tony Vatello was talking about it before the game, saying, he thought about resting some guys. And, when you play 21 innings in 2 days, a couple of these guys have been playing every day. And you look at Christian Koss, who has not played that much, could have easily jumped in there and played shortstop today or even played second. And given one of these regulars a day off, it just didn't happen. And maybe this is something that Tony's going to have to talk to Dusty or Bruce about resting some guys, especially after a long game like yesterday where they played 12 innings, and today was a bounce-back day game. A cool day in Washington, a bright day, but I never want to make excuses about weather. These guys play very hard every day, and these guys have had a tough road trip where they go 4-5 out of a 9-game road trip, where they travel to Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Washington. Now they got a good 5-hour flight coming home. They got a day off tomorrow. Next road, this homestand is going to be tough. And the key here is to try to get some wins. We're at Oracle Park, where they're 3-7 on an early season, 6-6 on the road. But you start thinking about what could have happened today, because I felt Robbie Ray had good stuff today. I really felt one inning. It was just one inning on a couple of misplayed balls and the home run on a changeup that they wanted outside, and he ended up bringing it on the inside corner for me to hit the home run. But other than that, I thought he really pitched well. But on the offensive side, they had 2 outs with 2 outs and 2 runners on and 2 outs in the first inning, couldn't score. Same thing in the second inning, 2 runners on, and Willie Adames strikes out to end that inning. Also in the fourth inning, 2 on, 2 outs. Willie Adames came up again, struck out, and that's kind of where I'm kind of focusing on Willie Adames. He just looked tired to me today. On the offensive side, the swings weren't there. A couple balls were inside. He swung. He frailed on them. It just didn't look like the Willie Adames that we've seen so far. And you know what? You need a day off here and there. In the 6th inning, a double by Schmidt, and that's where he stood. They didn't even get him over to third base. In the 8th inning, they had opportunities with an error with Chapman getting on. Then Devers hit a ball down the left field line, first and second, and nobody out. And Casey Schmitz hits into a 6-4-3 double play. A punch out by Encarnacion. That inning's over. In the 9th inning, a leadoff double by Ramos, and he stood there at second base. So there was opportunities for the Giants to mount an attack today. And as I keep throwing out there, 0 for 11 in runners in scoring position, and this is their 3rd shutout of the year. They had 2 shutouts against the New York Yankees in the beginning of the year, 1 against the Mets the following weekend. So this is 4 shutouts when you start looking at this team. And these are things that drive managers crazy. This is what drives pitchers crazy. And as I go back into Robbie Ray, and Robbie had good stuff today, and I keep throwing that out there so far. 93 pitches, 64 for strikes, and a mixture mainly of the fastball slider. His last game, he threw a lot of changeups in Cincinnati. He only threw 6 today, so that kind of boggled me on what he was trying to get done in Cincinnati. He just didn't have the feel today, and he only threw 5 curveballs, and a knuckle curveball is really a pitch he relies on. You turn the page on Robbie Ray. Yes, he did pitch. He gave up 3 earned runs, a misplayed ball, a fly ball by Ramos. It looked like he took a wrong route on the ball. And Ruiz hits a double, and he was down behind him 3-1 in that inning. Nunez led off with a bunt, a beautiful bunt. And then Ruiz hits a double. Ramos gets a bounce off it, hits Adames with a nice relay from the ground, and Adames threw a perfect throw to home. I still don't know how Patrick Bailey missed the ball and didn't even slide. That was the whole key about it. Nunez didn't even slide at home, and Bailey just missed the ball, and the ball was out in front of him, and I just didn't understand how he missed it because it wasn't skipped. He just missed the ball completely, and that would have been the first out of the inning, and that might have eclipsed what happened after it. Those are the games that you just kind of wonder, how in the hell did it happen? How did they not get on this Nat series and win this final game? A team looked like they were tired, a team that just wasn't focused today. You looked at Miles Mikolas, who came in with 11.5 earned run average. He goes 4 innings, only giving up 4 hits, not even a ball hit hard off of him. 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. And then Andrew Alvarez, who pitched in AAA, just got called up, and he goes 4 1/3 innings, 3 hits, 5 strikeouts, and Giants only had 1 walk. And Alvarez threw 62 pitches, 45 for strikes. He was around the plate, had a good curveball going, and the Giants just couldn't muster anything in this final game of a 3-game series against the Nationals. They take 2 out of 3. They end up taking the series, but you would want them to be 5-4 going home instead of 4-5 with a real tough homestand coming forward. 3 against the Dodgers, 3 against the Marlins, and that starts on Tuesday at 6:45. All right, 415-808 KNBR. Love to hear your thoughts on the offense, because the offense did wake up in these last 2 games, and they ended up winning that game in Cincinnati. They had a 3-game winning streak broken today. I see some difference in some of these hitters. We can go over some numbers on what they did on this road trip and what you can look forward to on this homestand once I throw the probables up for the Dodger-Giants series. I'm Bill Laskey. This is the Extra Inning Post-Game Show. We'll be right back. 415-808 KNBR. Let's get some phone lines ringing on a Sunday. We'll be right back on Sports Leader.
From the mound to the mic, this is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Hear him by saying to your smart speaker, play KNBR. Bill is back.
Fired up, bringing it, all excited.
This is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Listen on your Google Home smart speaker by saying play KNBR.
All right, back on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show with Bill Laskey on a beautiful Sunday. The sun came up here in Northern California. It looks really nice out. Giants were in Washington trying to figure it out, trying to take 3 games from the Nationals. It just didn't work out today. Giants get shut out 3-0. They only came up with 8 hits. As I said earlier, 6 opportunities to score runs in this game, and they just couldn't get that clutch hit. A couple guys had nice hits. Drew Gilbert, once again, goes 2 for 4. Rafael Devers gets 2 hits. He's 2 for 4, and that's about it. We talked about Friday and Saturday when the top 3 hitters ended up really hitting the ball well. When you look at what they did on Friday, they go 7 for 14 on Friday. They go 7 for 12 yesterday. Today, you're looking at a team that, when you look at the numbers, not good, as they were 1 for 13. So I still think this team was a little tired today after that 12-inning game. The offense got 8 hits, but when you're looking at 21 innings in the last 2 days plus travel from Cincinnati, it wears and tears on you. And today I just felt that Tony could have used a couple guys off the bench to give him some opportunities. He just didn't do it. And what came out today is a couple guys just didn't hit the ball well. And I'm kind of putting that circle on Willie Adames as he goes 0 for 5 with 3 punch-outs. And that's not the swings we've seen out of Willie Adames on this road trip. When you look at what he did today, 0 for 5. He went 3 for 15 in Washington, 12 for 48 on the road trip. A couple guys really hit the ball well on the road trip. Matt Chapman, 16 for 51. He's probably the best hitter we've seen. Jung-Hoo Lee had a nice road trip, 13 for 36. Ramos came on really big in Washington, 5 for 10. He finished 14 for 37. So the numbers are getting better on the offense. Today, it just didn't work out for the Giants. 415-808-KNBR. Get on the phone lines. Let's go out to San Mateo and talk to Kevin. Kevin, you're on an Extra Inning post-game show on Sunday. What'd you think of the road trip?
I'll make it quick, Bill. I know you got a lot of people on hold. I'll tell you, yesterday, Washington, 3 errors, bad base running. They should have took 2 out of 3. Over to Drew Gilbert. Hey, he looked great. Let's give him 300-400 at bat before evaluating him. Thanks, Bill.
Okay, Kevin. Again, that was so fast, I didn't really understand everything except for Drew Gilbert. And I think what Drew Gilbert's doing right now, as we know Harrison Bader got hurt, Drew Gilbert's playing a very good defensive center field. And he's getting opportunities, no question. And I really believe he would have made this club out of spring training. He got injured in spring training, had to take almost 2 weeks off, and then he went to AAA and hit over 300. Now he's pretty much your everyday center fielder. Harrison Bader's on the IL with a hamstring issue. And with 3 right-handers going against the Dodgers, we're going to see if Drew Gilbert can turn around some more offensive numbers. He came into it 0 for 8. He was 0 for 4 in Baltimore. He was 1 for 3 in the first game here, 2 for 5. Overall, 5 for 12 in Washington, and then 8 for 28 on the road trip. Still pretty good numbers. 2 for 4 today, 3 for 16 in Washington, where the Giants ended up getting 39 hits. You just got to piece it out a little bit. I think when you start looking at each individual and see where their bats are getting better. And we know Elliot Ramos woke up in Washington. I think Jung-Hoo Lee had a very good road trip, except kind of today, and he was kind of flush today. I think he could have easily sat down today too. When you start seeing guys ground out and you start seeing them pull over, and strikeouts are up today, 9 strikeouts. But you're seeing their swing path, and it's not exertive enough to get a good push on the ball. And that's kind of what I saw today, some tired arms, some tired bodies, and that's when you rely on the bench. Washington did it. Cincinnati did it in the third game, and I think that's what Tony Vatello is going to eventually have to do, is rely on some guys off the bench. And I keep looking at Christian Koss, and he really hasn't played. He didn't play at all. He was 0 for 4 on the road trip, and that's not a lot of at-bats. 1 for 6 on the season. You got to get this guy some at-bats, get him some playing time. And I know he's an extra infielder, but these are the games where you could have put him at shortstop. You could have put him in different places. You could have put Casey Schmidt instead of first base, put him at third base. But I think what they wanted to do is get Rafael Devers off the field. He was the designated hitter today. Casey Schmidt did play first base. A real tough play on a ball that was hit where he dove after the runner going down first base, a couple bunts that he kind of hesitated for. Robbie Ray didn't cover first base fast enough. Those are just things of unorthodox. Guys that are playing out of position, not knowing where to go for the ball. How do you handle the ball? How do you underhand the ball? And knowing when should I go, when should I stay at first base? And that's really been the issue at first base this whole season. Of course, Bryce Eldridge is playing a very good first base in AAA, but that's not going to happen. That's not going to change anything. You're living with Casey Schmidt at first and Rafael Devers at first. And right there, you got 2 big question marks on experience at first base and knowing what to do at first base. And literally a couple balls in this whole road trip, Devers just missed, and easy balls too. So you take offense over defense on Devers, you play defense over offense on Bailey, and it's just supposed to even out. We haven't seen the good Devers yet. Of course, he had 2 frail base hits today, 1 to left field, 1 to center field. He's slowly getting the ball in play, 11 for 50 on this road trip. He was 4 for 15 in Washington. These numbers are just not good numbers for a Rafael Devers. 415-808-KNBR if you want to get on the phone lines. Let's go to Mitch in New Jersey. Mitch, you're on an Extra Inning Sunday show. How are you?
How you doing, Bill?
I'd tell you one quick note, Mitch. You asked me. I just felt there should have been some switches in this lineup today with 21 innings played on most of these guys.
Yeah, but maybe our bench is kind of weak. Lack of a rotation. But I'm calling this one over. We can make a trade. I think we know the hitter too. We need another bopper. All the guy was over the offseason was a Raz. He's always guy. And he gets hit. He should be leadoff. He hits the guy, but I wish we had another power hitter. And,
they didn't really go out and get anybody, Mitch. They, when you look at it, you're absolutely right. Picking up a Rise and a couple starting pitchers. I think they really feel strong with Adames, Chapman, Devers. Ramos is finally waking up a little bit, but you guys got to give guys on the bench some opportunities, especially you're 22 games into the season, and a lot of these guys don't even have 20 at bats.
I guess there's no room for Eldridge, right?
I don't think that's going to happen right now. Not with 22 games into the season. You're 9-13. Probably about 40 or 50 games is when you're really going to see the identity of this team's how they can play. The National League West, the Central American League. You lose 2 out of 3 to Baltimore after you take the first game. You lose 2 out of 3 to Cincinnati. You win the third game, and you win 2 out of 3 against the Nationals. A road trip where I thought for sure they were going to be over 500, and they're going home 4-5.
Well, I just wish that we had more offense. And, one more guy, Derek Cohen. I know he's in the minor leagues. I guess he won't be up this year. So thanks.
Who was that?
Call.
I didn't hear that name, Mitch.
Derek Cohen.
Okay, I don't know that name. Where's he playing?
Is it Double-A?
Yeah, you're not going to see too many. You're not going to see too many Double-A guys jumping up to the big leagues. But I'll keep an eye on him, Mitch. Where is he? An outfield or infield? I don't know his name.
Okay. All right, I'll look up too.
All right, thanks, Mitch. Thanks for the call. All right, we're going to take a quick break on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show, 415-808-KNBR. If you want to get on, talk some Giants. Got a great interview later in the show. Steve Rogers, of course, how the Nationals came to fashion. The Montreal Expos moved there, and Steve Rogers is one of the best pitchers ever against when he was with the Montreal Expos, a 5-time National League All-Star. He's in the Expos Hall of Fame, also in Canada's Hall of Fame. Just some outstanding numbers. A great interview later. We're going to talk a lot about pitching, a lot of extra names that we both faced in our National League abilities to face like a Mike Schmidt, a Pete Rose. We drop a lot of names and a lot of good pitching. That's what I'm talking. A pitching conversation and one of the best. So that's Steve Rogers later in the show. All right, we'll take a quick break. Come back with more right here on KNBR.
KNBR, the sports leader.
Yeah, it was a well-struck ball, and I mean the guys had been talking in the dugout. Obviously, the wind was a factor to begin the game, but as the game started, there was immediately some plays where we were joking about how crazy, the ball was acting in the air a couple different times. So guys are locked into the wind, and I think it's one of the reasons Ramos got a good beat on it. Came up short there. Willie had a similar play where, because of the wind, we can't catch a ball, but he stayed with it. We get the out at third, and Ramos did the same thing. Excellent relay by Willie, but the bottom line is, like you said, it's a one-hopper. Tried to make a quick tag, didn't come up with it. Made an aggressive play, and it paid off for him. And obviously, like to go back in time and not have any runs scored in that inning, but we end up with 3.
The game may be over, but we know you want to talk more ball. So KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey continues.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
We are KNBR 104.5 and 6.8, the sports leader.
Back on KNBR with Bill Laskey, Tony Vatello on his postgame talking about what happened in that 5th inning, and the winds were blowing as it was overcast, and then the sun came out, and the wind was really blowing as, when you're watching a game with Sean Estes and Dave Fleming, the booth was just blowing all around. Things were, and a swirling wind on top of it, which really hurts the outfielders because you just can't gauge the break of the ball. And I think what he was talking about with Elliot Ramos, I thought he had a bad break on the ball. I thought he went too deep and the ball was short, and then he lost his footing, and then he picked the ball, threw it to Adames, and Adames threw it home. I still think Bailey should have caught that ball. There was no slide at home. He had plenty of time to catch it, and I think he tried to catch it and swipe it instead of fielding the ball, then going to tag. And those were 2 good plays. I mean, 2 plays that could have been made, and Robbie Ray could have been out of that inning, and it ended up getting up the home run to Curtis Mead that opened up the game to 3-0, and that was really the only inning that the Nationals really hurt Robbie Ray, and a couple misplayed balls, and you end up coming out with a loss. But when you look in your rearview mirror, the Giants didn't score a run. So you look at a couple of plays like that, the home run ball, you could have lost this game 1-0. But again, the circumstances would have been a lot different on a 1-0 game compared to a 3-0 game, and the Giants walk out of Washington, taking the series 2 out of 3 and coming home with a 4-5 road trip, where easily a couple hits here, a couple hits there, could have been 5-4. All right, let's get back to the phone lines. Let's go up to Washington and talk to Ray. Ray, you're on an extra inning post-game show. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing great, Bill. Thanks for having me on. I listened to you talk, and I totally agree, especially after winning the first 2 games. Should have got Koss in there somewhere, and Carcion in there, Gerard in there. But what I wanted to talk about was the first base situation. I mean, I don't think who we have there, Devers or Schmidt, are above average. And I love my Giants, don't get me wrong. But
I agree with you.
The reason I bring that up is I don't think everybody thinks that Eldridge is above average either. But since that being the case, shouldn't we just have him there? And then maybe it's too early. I don't know. I'm a novice at this. You all know better than me. But I really think that now's the time. I mean, get him up here.
Well, they're only 22 games into the season, Ray. They're only 22 games. And we can talk about Schmidt and Devers right now because they're not first basemen. Neither one have played first base, so it's an experiment with either one of them. And when you have an experiment in a position in the big leagues at a position like first base where they're supposed to catch the ball, knock the ball down, get double plays, and you're not watching the ball into your glove, that is a concern for me. And when I look at first base, that position has to be above average. And you just said it. Neither one of them are above average. I don't think either one of them are average. But you got to have somebody play first base. You want to know what the real answer is? Put a Rise at first base. He's a first baseman. He played there in San Diego, but he's playing so good at second base, and that's why they signed him. He wanted to come here to play second base. He won't go to first base. This is where he wants to play. That's where they signed him. He's doing a fabulous job at second base. Now, the Bryce Eldridge issue, I don't think they'll call him up. As I said, 22 games in the season. They're going to have to get better at catching a ball at first base and understanding how far I go get the ball. How do I underhand the ball to the pitcher? It's an experiment. no question. And when you have Ron Washington there every day beating these guys up, he's trying to teach them as much as he can. Dave Fleming said it earlier in the game today. Rafi Devers was out there. Casey Schmidt's out there. And they're out there. You can do as much as you can in practice, Ray, and you know this. Everybody knows it. You can practice all day. It's about in-game pressure, in-game when the ball's hit. What do I do? And that's where the big experiment is kind of going backwards. And I think they're understanding they have to get better at first base.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad Schmidt's hitting. I'm glad to see Ramos getting heated up. And, I'm glad we took 2 out of 3, but you can't win if you don't score a run. And
that's right.
I hope
that goes back to Little League, right?
Win a few
Little
more.
League.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. Thanks, Ray. I appreciate your call. Let's go to San Ramon and talk to Gary. Gary, you're on an Extra Innings Sunday show. Giants lose a tough one. They get shut out the third game in Washington. They go home with a 4-5 record. What did you think of the road trip?
Well, it's disappointing, Bill, because they're not exactly playing the cream of the crop. Cincinnati's a pretty good team this year, looking like. But, yeah, they needed, like you said earlier, they needed to go 5-4. And because, like you said, we got the Dodgers and Miami coming in here. So, and then, of course, having Robbie go today, boy, that you could chalk that one up as a win, Bill. So that's why
I thought so, too.
But, but my point being is that I've just not been a fan of Willie at the top of the order. He's never been a high on-base guy. You want somebody that's around 350, on base, like Arise or even Matt up at the top of that order. And like today is a perfect example, And like you said, he probably was tired. But he doesn't
I really
come out of there
so.
either.
Gary, you're watching a game like me. His swings just didn't look like a Willie Adames. And I liked it when he had a rise at number 1. I liked it. He's an on guy. He's an on-base guy. He puts the ball in play, watches a lot of pitches. That's your prototypical leadoff hitter. That's the guy you want to lead off. That's the guy that's going to get on bags for you. And I thought that was a good move. If you put a Rise at 1 and put Chapman in 2 and maybe Adames at 3, I kind of like that mixture and just getting those first 2 guys on the bag and letting Adames drive them in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you 100% because Adames has never been a leadoff hitter. And I think his best work is done down further in the lineup.
Well, he hit 3 last year, and I thought that was a good spot for him because he does go the opposite way. He has some power numbers. I would like to see that change up now against the Dodgers. You got 3 right-handed starters. So I would love to see Arise to get that leadoff spot. Maybe even put Devers at 3 and put Adames at 4 to make it a lefty-righty combo. I like the top 4, but I'm like with you, Gary. I think they need to mix it up a little bit and bring Adames maybe in the third hole and put Arise and Chapman 1 and 2, just like I said.
Yeah, one other question I had, Bill, on the approach. Just from my point of view, I don't think, other than a few guys in the lineup, I don't think they work the count enough. We don't get enough bases on balls. What are you seeing?
You're absolutely right. Great point. And they don't. And they don't walk enough. The one guy that walks more than anybody right now is Drew Gilbert. He's the only guy that takes a lot of pitches. You walk into this series against Washington, they only had 75 walks. And that's not a lot when you're looking at 19 games. They need to get on base more and, like you said, cherish what they're throwing at you, watch the pitch a little bit more, get into deeper counts. I'm right there with you, Gary, on that point.
Thanks a lot, Bill. I really appreciate the time.
Yep, I appreciate the call. Let's go to JD. JD's on a cell phone. How are you this afternoon, JD?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Appreciate the call.
I really want to be optimistic with our new coach. I really do. But, in the words of Yogi, it's getting late early. And what I mean by that is just decision making. You talked about the rest of the players, resting the players and whatnot. But even the decision in the ninth, where you've got the left on left, that's a perfect time for a pinch hitting opportunity.
I agree.
And then again, going back to the last call with the grinding at bats, one pitch, really a pop out. So that's a small sample size of the decision making. He's got Dusty in the building. He's got Bruce in the building. He's got the other.
He's got Ron Washington on the
It's
bench. He's got
on
Ron
the bench,
Washington
you know,
right there, one of the smartest managers and coaches in the game. I don't. What I'm kind of curious about, and I'm going to go to the ballpark this homestand. I would like to see Ron Washington sit next to him. Why isn't Ron Washington down to being next to him? And I would love to see Ron Woda sit next to him at the home games.
Amen.
That's your experience of bench coaches. Those are the guys you thrive to. Those are the guys you listen to. And those are the guys that have been in that dugout for umpteen years, and they know to think 3-4 hitters ahead. Tony is a fantastic manager. He's not, like you said, he's not at the big league level yet in understanding how fast this game goes. The guy's great.
And not only
I've
how
talked
fast
to him. Yeah, and you need
not
help.
only how fast it goes in the game, but how long the season is.
Yes.
And how you need to be strategic with your team in order to get off this line of mediocrity that we've been on.
Mm-hmm.
So I just one more thing I want to pick your brain on. Do you think maybe a little bit of this has to do with Tony trying to establish rapport and legitimacy with the vets? Versus,
it's going to be, 22 games
win.
into it, a spring training. It's not, they're trying to make it happen. These guys are trying to make it feel like, hey, he's good. We love him. We're going to work for him. But experience at the big league level at any coach or manager, pitching coach, hitting coach, it does matter. When you look at a Rafael Devers or you look at Willie Adames that have played 6, 7, 8, 9 years, and now you see a manager that's never managed one game in the big leagues, now he's your leader, so you have to give him the benefit of the doubt, and you have to understand what he's saying. But, there's a lot of conversation, no question. There's conversation with players, one-on-ones, which is great, but it's in-game that's tough. And just like I said today, when they started this game, I felt that there was going to be some players resting today. And when I watched Willie Adames swing and the second inning when he struck out with the first and second, I was like, what is going on? And then I realized they just got done playing 21 innings. This guy needs a break. He hasn't had one inning off the whole season. And this would have been a perfect day, with tomorrow being an off day, to give them 2 days rest before they got in the Dodger series. When you go to players, JD, as a manager, you want a rest day, nobody's going to say no. Nobody's going to say, yeah, I need a rest day. You got to place that lineup, and that's what you live with. And that's how the communication starts. Hey, I'm giving you a day off today. Don't worry, you might get a pinch hit. Hey, I'm putting Koss in today. Give him some reps. That's what I would love to see today going into this lineup today, and it just didn't happen.
Well, thanks, Bill. Again, it's early, but I am worried that we're headed to another 500.
Yeah, it's early, but again, I understand what you're saying. Some of these games should have been won, and they didn't. And now they come home to a tough homestand, and then they go back on a tough road trip, Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. Going into Philadelphia is tough, and then they're playing a real good team in Tampa Bay this year. And, you're looking at, 3 games L.A., 3 games Miami, 3 Philadelphia, 3 Tampa. You're talking 12 games here of some legit talent. So a tough road ahead for him, JD, but we'll find out. But thanks for the call. When you just exactly what JD said. Is it a mediocrity team? Is it a team that you're starting to think, they're going to be 500? Is this team going to battle, as we just saw the last 2 games in Washington? Is this team going to come together and have some series wins? Because that's what you got to do to get back out of this 9-13 record. You have to win series. You got 2 tough series coming at home, and you're looking at a 3-7 homestand so far at Oracle. And you played the Yankees, the Mets, the Phillies. Yes, tough series. But this is Major League Baseball. Doesn't matter who you're playing. That other team's going to put 9 players on, and you got to go and compete. And I think that's what we want to see a little better out of the orange and black. Got a few callers on hold. We're going to take a quick break, come back with more. 415-808 KNBR. Let's talk some more Giants baseball on a Sunday afternoon. This is KNBR, the sports leader.
KNBR, the sports leader.
Not really. I mean, towards the end, I think we got a little beat down by the lack of results on offense and then, being down on the scoreboard as well. But, I mean, the vibe and the approach we had going into the game in the first 5 or 6 innings was really, really good. It's a lot easier to be energetic or celebrate or look like things are going well for you when you're getting rewarded or you find a way to manufacture stuff on offense. We just didn't have anything going against the 3 guys they threw up against us. So I think that played into it a lot. But, I mean, about the 4th, 5th inning, I said to myself, we're playing winning baseball right now. I mean, we're not winning the game. I think at the time it was 0-0, but no, I thought the approach was good.
You're listening to the former Giants righty. It's KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Heard on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR.
Back on Extra Innings, Tony Vatello talking about the approach the team had. And when you're looking at it, the first 4 innings, 3 of those 4 innings, they had 2 on with 2 out, and they just couldn't get that key hit. And it's resting guys. I really believe in the years I played in the big leagues, it's always that day game after a night game. And really, it wasn't really a night game. It was an evening game yesterday. But they played 12 innings, and you had guys on their feet for 12 innings. And I really felt that could have been moved in Encarnacion. Who knows? He could have played first base today. He's had some opportunities. Koss could have played some shortstop just to get some guys off their feet. And with a day off tomorrow, it gives them 2 days to recuperate against a tough team with the Dodgers and the Marlins coming in. It just didn't work that way. He went with his solid lineup, and it cost him in key situations of this game where runners in scoring position were there and they just couldn't get the key hit. 0 for 11, a big stat right there with runners in scoring position, and it got shut out. 3rd time of the year. I want to reach out and say hello to Leona. She's from Georgia. Marty from Ohio. A couple guests of mine that I've talked to in many years reaching out to me today to say hello to me and saying hello to all of you out there listening to the show and following me at Laskey19 on Twitter, or you say X. But you know what? It's great to hear from a lot of fans across the nation that tune in and listen to Giants baseball, and they know I'm on weekends, and it's just great that you're tuning in and listening to what the Giants are trying to do in this 2026 season. All right, let's get back to the phone lines. Let's go to Santa Cruz and talk to Josh. Josh, you're on Extra Innings with Bill Laskey. How are you?
Hey, Bill. Thanks so much for taking my call, man.
I appreciate the call.
Yeah, absolutely. I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the offense today. They played really well last night and the day before, and these wins that they're getting, they feel pretty dominant, and I really appreciate that because it seems like they're playing well when they get going, But today it just felt anemic again, like Murph and Marcus are talking about. It's just there's nothing going on with this team when they feel like they're down. And I would welcome Susac playing 2 of 3 games and maybe having Bailey play 1 of 3, Well,
I felt he was going to play today. On the Extra Inning postgame show yesterday, I felt he was catching Robbie Ray. Robbie Ray threw to him with 2 wins. And I felt with Bailey playing yesterday, we were going to see Susac in today, even though it was a lefty-righty combination, because they ended up putting Poulin in and then brought in Mikolas, and they had announced Mikolas was starting, but you knew he wasn't going to stay long because he'd been getting lit up. But I really felt that that's what was going to happen today, especially kind of like an early evening game, night game. And today I really thought Susac was going to get that catching opportunity, just as well as I kept saying about Koss playing today. I really felt that he was going to get some at-bats. But Tony's stuck on this lineup, and there's a reason for it. We can't question the manager. That's what he's there for. But he wanted to keep the same lineup in and ended up going backwards with him because there were some tired guys out there today.
Absolutely. And I totally I love the conversation you had with the first and third callers on the last segment. Those guys, I kind of disagree a little bit, but I agree that this whole team is an experiment at this point. You know what I mean? Yeah. We got Devers at first, playing out, he should be DHing if he was hitting as well as he was in Boston, and we got Arias, who should be probably playing first. We wouldn't have Casey Schmidt getting, cussed out by Matt Chapman. And it's
well,
really
that's what I said. The
inexperience,
Josh, the inexperience at first base is showing. They don't have an experienced first baseman at all. on this whole roster.
Even the outfield is an experiment right now. We got Bader in there who's batting in the highway.
Yeah, Bader's on the IL now, so you got Gilbert out there who's played some very good center field.
Honestly, I'm waiting for that. Gilbert should have been starting there, but they gave Bader the chance to do it because they gave him a big contract for 1 year, and so.
Well, Gilbert got hurt in spring training too, Josh. You got to understand that. He was injured for almost 2 weeks of spring training. It was a good thing to do for him to start in AAA, get healthy, and he had to play in a lot of reps. He's doing well now. I didn't understand why they didn't pinch hit for him lefty-lefty. I really believe they need to start doing some things like that.
Absolutely, man. I think that there's an element of experimentation going on with Vatello because he's so new, and we need to see more out of this.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think there needs to be another ear, somebody in his ear about possible moves, and I haven't seen that yet. Of course, I'm not in the dugout. I'm not in the clubhouse. I'm watching what you're watching. I go to the park here and there, ask questions, but I really believe he needs a sounding board in the dugout during the game. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen too many people juggling around, sitting next to him or being by him. Hey, I'm watching it like you are. I might be wrong, but I really think he needs help in certain scenarios of making a lineup out, making pinch hitting come out, defensive replacements. We haven't seen that yet in 22 games, and he's a good manager, no question. I think he knows the game of baseball. He understands how to communicate with players. But at this level, at the big league level, the game is so fast, and there's so much time that you can only think about and do, and that's where I keep saying the Ron Wotuses, the Ron Washingtons have been in this scenario. They've been in this position in a dugout, and you got to rely on guys that have been there.
I absolutely agree with you, Bill. I just think that he has so many assets right now in the dugout, and maybe he's not utilizing them how me and you envision he should. But Bochy, Washington, Wotus, he's got all the tools that he needs to win a big league game. And, we're seeing it last night. The bullpen looked great.
Beautiful.
Brubaker, I think,
bullpen been
one
great.
Strikeout.
Yeah.
Great.
I think the bullpen's thrown well.
thing.
When you look at this whole road trip, I think the bullpen is really managed in different positions, how he put him in different scenarios, leverage situations. Keaton Wynn has just been lights out. And then you look at Caleb Killian, a guy that just made the team out of spring training. He's one of the best pitchers in the bullpen, and I still think he could possibly be your closer with the mix of pitches he has.
Absolutely, Bill. I think that he has a level. He's a younger dude. You know what I mean? And he's trying to manifest this team that he doesn't really know that well yet. And they can do it, man. Like the Killian is good, Brubaker's good. I liked him getting a little fired up the other day, and I think that they have a chance to win it. Do well in this division.
They got to get better though. They got to win series. You got to go in and somehow manage to win 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. If you can do that and change that momentum at home, I think that's going to be a big challenge for him because you got Yamamoto, Ohtani, and Glasnow, and 2. When you're looking at 3 top-line right-hand pitchers, and they're going to have to do something on the offensive end to manipulate the Dodgers because those are 3 outstanding starting pitchers. When you're looking at Yamamoto with a 2.1, Ohtani's 2-0 with a .50, and Glasshouse 2-0 with a 3.2, you better put your spikes on because they're going to bring it at you, and you better get some good at-bats. And like we've talked about earlier, get walks, get some people on base, and try to manage some runs.
100% agree, but Bill, honestly, I don't feel great about the Dodgers series coming up. I'm going to be at the ballpark on Saturday against the Marlins, and I'm really excited for that series. But I have more faith that they could take 2 out of 3 against the Marlins than the Dodgers.
Marlins are playing good baseball too. This whole homestand is going to be tough. Marlins are coming in. They've been playing good. They got really hot in the beginning of the season, and they're cooled off a little bit, but they got a whole different team, and they got 3 starting pitchers that are going to be pitching well. So this is going to be 6 games of some good pitching coming at the Giants offense, and we'll see how they manage. But, Josh, thanks for the call today. Great stuff that you brought on about the Giants team. Let's go out to Hayward and talk to Rick. Rick, you're on an Extra Inning post-game show. How are you this afternoon?
I'm feeling better. I've been calling because I've been sick. But anyhow, Yeah, I'm better. Just the dang cough, but other than that, no big deal. I hope you're doing well. And looking at this team, I'm not. You just said it. I don't think this team can hit fastball pitching, and it's so obvious. I mean, other than other than Schmidt and Arise, and maybe a little bit of Chapman, this team cannot hit a fastball. And
yeah, why do you think that? Rick, why do you think that? Because I'm right there with you. I've watched guys throw balls right by him. I mean, I was watching Miles Mikolas throwing 92 by guys today, 92, 93, and I still think this team was tired after 21 innings. I really think that was a big, big minus that Tony could have used Koss, Encarnacion, some different blood on that lineup to give him a little spark, and he used the same lineup out there, and I think that was a big miss by him.
I totally agree with you, Bill. I think that there's 3 guys that should have been in the lineup today that weren't, that could have spelled guys. You know, you said it all. You know, Willie needs days off. His bat looks slow. Same thing with Rafi. Devers needs a few days off. His bat looks slow. And I think it's age. I think that teams have got
29 years old, Devers. He's only 29.
That, but I don't believe that, and I'm sorry, but I don't believe that he's 29. He looks more like 34. And I know, I'm serious. I mean, we've heard this happen before, but
20 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, when I was playing, there was guys that didn't have the right birth date on them, but they can't do that now. Come on, Rick. He's 29 years old. Arias is 29 years old. Adames is 30. They're still young. They're still in their prime.
All right. It seems like teams have given up on Boston gave up on Devers. They wanted to get rid of him. Same thing with Milwaukee. They wanted to they didn't want to pay Adames's demands, and they're reaching that plateau age where now their bat's going to slow up, and it's obvious. It's the same thing with when we got Longoria. You know, the Marlins GM signed him, who happens to be now the GM and president of the Dodgers, signed into that big deal, and it was the same thing. We got a player who was aged. And
I agree with that, because in Tampa Bay, you could see how his numbers were falling, and the Giants needed a third baseman at that time. At the time, it was but the contract was so high. You're absolutely right there. Did he perform up to his abilities? No, he really didn't. But you can't really throw that on Devers and Arise and Willie Adames yet. I'm not going to put that on them yet. They still have a whole year left. They've only got 22 games in out of 162. But I'm seeing what you're saying. I still believe, and you said it and I said it earlier, these guys need a day off. They can't play every game. They just got done playing 21 innings. They got to get off their feet. And with that day off tomorrow, that's where I really thought Koss was going to play shortstop today. I really felt that Adames needed a day off. I really felt Chapman needed a day off too, and he could have been a DH. He needs to use the bench players a little bit more, and today was that opportunity, and today it was missed, because when you look at 2 outs, 2 on, and Adames was up twice and he punched out both times, he was late on everything, and that just showed me he was tired.
Okay, I have to quantify what I just said. I think that Adames and Devers are good players. But, like you just said, I don't think they can play 8 games in a row anymore.
No, I don't believe it either.
I think they need 2 days off. I think Chapman can't play 154 games anymore.
He'll tell you he can. Right, Rick? These guys are going to tell you they can. Yeah, they're going to tell you that.
I know what he says he can, but I don't see it in his performance. And as the manager, you have to take that into account.
I agree.
And now manage an older team, and today that it just didn't happen. And
right,
so
and today was the perfect opportunity to do it. That's why I keep saying it. Today he missed using his bench today. And I really felt today you would have seen some different guys. Washington did it. Washington's using everybody on their bench. This young Butera manager uses his entire roster. And that impresses me as a young 33-year-old manager, knowing what he's got on his bench, knowing when I can use a pinch hitter, knowing when I can use defense, and he did it properly today. I really felt when I looked at their lineup, I'm like, that's what the Giants should be doing. That's where you should have seen Koss in here, even Encarnacion. You got to use some of these guys to give them some at-bats. You can't go a whole road trip when Koss was 1 for 4 on the whole road trip. And then you look at Encarnacion, he was 1 for 6 on a whole road trip of 9 games. That's not fair to those players. And that's what I'm looking at. Give them some opportunities to get in and get some at-bats.
I agree, Bill. And this is why I disagree with you, though.
Go ahead.
You say it's 22 games in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those 13 losses we're not going to be able to get back.
Right.
And I'm not saying we're going to win all those games, but if you manage the game better, there's about 4 games right now that I think that the Giants could have won if they made better decisions within the game frame. I
don't know about that. I think a couple maybe. I don't know about 4. I'd have to look back at each one of them. They got shut out now 4 times. So when you're looking at 22 games and 4 times you got shut out, that's a big miss for me right there. That's 18 games then. And you're looking at 9 wins. So now you got 9 games you got to talk about. It's tough. It's tough right now, Rick, but I think what we're both talking about is to use the roster. Use everybody and get some of these older guys a day off. And I really believe that's what you and I are both looking at here. And I think both of us made that conclusion. They have to use everybody. And I think that's a big, big miss by Tony today. Rick, thanks for the call. Let's go down to L.A. and talk to Jeff. Jeff, you're on an extra afternoon show. How are you?
Hi, Bill. Well, it's my weekly call to you. I'm making this a habit now, and I think I need to send you a check for therapy here because I'm really
more than welcome every weekend.
about to lose it, but you're awesome. I'm a 50-plus year Giants fan, going back to way back when, and had high hopes for this year. I like the Tony hiring. Mm-hmm. I liked the moves that they made in the off season. You and I talked about upgrades to pitching that they didn't do. But the problem has been with the offense. And I think, first of all, getting to your point about, getting Koss in there, I agree with you. Plus he's gutty. Plus he's automatic energy, Koss. I love the guy. I'm not an Encarnacion fan. I would get rid of him if possible. But in that respect, I agree with you completely. Let this guy play. Why Willie is in the leadoff spot is beyond me. I cannot comprehend that, and I really like that. The guy, to me, they don't really have a leadoff hitter, but put Gilbert in the leadoff spot.
That's a possibility too.
The guy's got.
I still think Arise, Jeff. Don't you think Arise is the perfect guy to put in a leadoff spot? I mean, he takes pitches, he watches, he goes the opposite way, he puts the ball in play. That is my quotations a leadoff hitter.
Yeah, the only thing I had heard a stat by one of the people at KNBR that Arise's batting average with runners on base is even higher than his regular batting average.
It is.
So you need him now. Now, granted, leadoff is one time in the game most likely, but long story short, a guy that most of us didn't even want and were disappointed to get in Arise is the best hitter on the team. It's not even close. He's the best hitter on the team, and he's been playing superb defense.
Yeah.
And so that I don't get. I'm beyond disappointed in Devers. I thought this would be the guy where wherever you stopped to watch the at bat. I have absolutely no faith in this guy whatsoever.
It's been a disappointment, Jeff. I'm right there with you. It's been a disappointment, and I think all Giants fans were expecting this guy to hit 30, 40 home runs. The quotation is he's going to be the next Barry Bonds. I haven't seen anything like that. Sure, when he makes contact, when he hits barrel of the bat, sure, the ball goes out. We have not seen that consistently. He is, if you look on his baseball card, yes, you look at his numbers, yes, he's a 300 hitter. Yes, he hits 30 or 40 home runs. Since he's been in a Giants uniform, we have not seen that. We've seen a couple glimpses, but not enough to say he's the next Barry Bonds. No doubt he is not the next Barry Bonds. I think he needs to take the swing path a little less and put the ball in play a little more. go to left field a little bit more like he did in Boston, and quit looking to try to drive the ball out of the park every time. It's going to be difficult because he is set in this mode as a hitter, and he's set in his ways. It's going to have to be him to adjust, and no hitting coach is going to tell him to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you know what? I don't even like to use the name Barry Bonds in conversation, because how many have we seen in the last half century that you could put in that
Never going to be. And that's why I don't like comparisons. You know, I didn't like the comparison when Joey Bart was here and they put Buster Posey's name on him. I thought that hurt that kid. I really did. And Joey, I got to know Joey for years, and he was trying like hell to be a good catcher, and all the comparisons kept coming at him, and it beat him up. He's doing well in Pittsburgh, but I think he could have been done. I think he's going to have been a better catcher here if you just took the comparisons off of him.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? That's a great segue. I hate to be the latest person to bag on Bailey. Why did he play today, Bill? I don't know. Beyond not performing offensively and not performing defensively, they gave Susac the day off. I could have sworn it was going to be Susac on Friday and Sunday.
I did too.
I cannot.
Especially when you look at yesterday.
I really like Tony.
You know, Jeff, yesterday Bailey got one hit, but he punched out 3 times. And today he got one hit, and it was an infield hit. And it looked like when they took Susac into pinch hit, it looks like him and Tony were talking a little bit in the dugout, and there shouldn't even been a question. You know, we are hitting for you. There shouldn't be even a thought pattern of why you're not hitting. I don't know what that conversation was. I could never, explain it. But every time he comes up in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, there should be a pinch hitter. I know he's a good defender. Today, I think he should have caught that ball and made the play at home. It looks like he took the eye off of it. Looked like he was looking at the runner. The runner never slid. That's an out for me at home plate. There are times where you're saying, man, why isn't Susac playing a little more? Today, with Robbie Ray on the hill, yesterday's postgame show, I said it. I think Susac's going to be in there. He won 2 games with Robbie Ray on the hill, and I'm right there with you. I thought that was a place where Susac could have caught today.
I'll tell you something, Bill. Today is what, if I'm right, the 19th. On March 19th, I would have said to you, I think that this is a postseason team. I think this is a 3rd wild card, maybe a 2nd wild card team. Mm-hmm. I wish they had done more with the pitching, but the offense did not worry me under any circumstances.
Me too.
And now, a month later, I will tell you, I think this is potentially a 100-loss team. And one thing, Bill, you were saying earlier, well, they've got a tough series with the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, whatever. We're going to talk about that.
Next 12 games.
Every series is a tough series because this is a bad baseball team. I hate to be so down. This is such a disappointing team with so many. They don't bunt. They don't manufacture runs. They don't. Mm-hmm. They don't run. They don't.
0 for 11 today, Jeff. 0 for 11.
This is a. Bill, this is a mess. How is this team with all this talent and a manager that I really like and a coaching staff that I like and a smart hitting operations guy from Toronto and the pitching coach who comes in from Milwaukee? 2 great organizations that are known for pitching and known for hitting, respectively. How is this team failing on so many different facets? And what's interesting, like you said, other than Walker in the closing situation, which he can't be, but I think he's done a good job otherwise, the bullpen, I think, has been fine. Yeah. The rotation has been adequate. I don't like either Malley or the other guy that they picked up, but the rotation is decent. Hauser, the rotation is decent. I think we have a star in the making in Roop, and the bullpen's been good with the exception of Walker in the closer role. Walker in other spots, I think, is fine.
The question mark, Jeff, was the bullpen, and here the bullpen's doing the great thing, and the offense, besides the last 2 games, was I felt the same way with you coming out of spring training. I said it probably 50 times already on my weekend shows. This team's going to get 4 or 5 runs a game. I really felt this offense was going to do what they did the last 2 games. But to come in today and not score any runs against these 3 pitchers Washington threw out there, then I'm right back into the same feeling you had. Can this team even compete against the Dodgers? Can this team even compete against Tampa Bay, who's playing very good in the AL East? We're going to find out because the next 12 games, man, this team could go way down south, or they're going to be able to come and compete. And they got to compete at Oracle Park. And this ballpark to the next 6 games, it's going to be good baseball, but can they compete against the Dodgers? That's going to be a big question mark Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
You know, Bill, I agree. The other thing is their offensive approach, and maybe that's this Hunter Mentz. I keep thinking Hunter Pence. It's the only reason I remember. This approach, and yeah, he's from Toronto, great organization, glad they got him. I feel like they are behind 0-2 on almost every time the first baseman is up. Rafi is up. He's down 0-2. Willie's down 0-2. Willie's striking out 3-4 times a game. I don't understand this approach. This guy is supposed to turn the whole offense around. This whole put it in play, which I love. But you can't have, to me, a put-it-in-play kind of offense when you've got guys who strike out this much. You can't be a put-it-in-play.
Yeah, a lot of strikeouts. You're absolutely right. But, you got to look, Jeff, look at the last 2 games, though. The last 2 games, we saw a different approach. The last 2 games, they got 31 hits, 17 runs. We saw a different approach. We saw every guy in the lineup get a hit or 2 or 3. But what happened was they ended up taking more pitches a little bit. You said 0-1, 0-2. They took a couple more pitches, but it was ball 1, ball 2. It was a difference because then they got in hitters counts. And you know as well as I do, Jeff, you get a hitters count, the pitcher is going to eventually throw you a meatball. And these guys accomplished that by getting 31 hits. So, it was a simple size of the last couple games of what this offense can do. But this has got to be better each day. It can't go high and then all of a sudden low and get shut out. They needed to get a couple of hits and key points today, and they didn't. 0 for 11.
Right. And you know what? I get it when it comes to, they opened up against the Yankees and what they scored 1 run the whole series, and it was Fried and it was Schlittler and it was Will Warren.
Right.
Top-notch pitchers. Michaelis, the guy who was really good in St. Louis, had like an 11 ERA, and the writing was on the wall. This is the exact guy that they're gonna stink against because the guy that everybody hits, the Giants will do it. And I think you're right. I think they were tired. Last game of the road trip, they played all those innings. Why wouldn't? And I like Tony Bill. I like the guy. Why wouldn't he have started those guys, Susak and Christian
Susak, Encarnacion, and Koss? Those 3 guys should have been in that lineup today. I really believe those 3 guys should have been in there. They could have put Encarnacion at first. They could have given Devers a day off today. That would have been 2 days off. They could have kept Schmidt at the DH. They could have put Koss at shortstop. And they could have made a couple moves that gave a couple of your veterans a day off, which would have been 2 days off with tomorrow. What they did, they didn't force them. I shouldn't say that word force because these players want to play. These players will never say, take me out, unless there's an injury of something of that magnitude. Players will never say, take me out. They will always say yes. But that's the manager's job to say, nope, I'm going to do this, take the day off, relax. And today was that day, and it just didn't happen. But, Jeff, thanks for the call. It's always great catching up with you. And, again, a lot of great points. Let's go out to Berkeley and talk to Jim. Jim, you're on a Sunday edition of Extra Innings. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Bill. Thanks for taking the call. Hey, I just wanted to say, I appreciate you being a class act. I think the Giants and KNBR are fortunate to have you representing.
I appreciate that, Joe.
So, I still remember. I don't remember. It was probably 82, 83. You probably remember, but you coming in and who was it? It might have been I'm trying to remember the Expos, maybe.
Yeah, the Expos. My first start. That was my first start, Jim. That's when I had dark hair. Now you're going back in the 80s now, so we're going back a few years, my friend.
Well, you and me both. I think I had darker hair then too. I was really proud. Just on another topic, I had my girlfriend there at the time, and it's funny because I went to a game recently. My daughter brought her boyfriend, and she had to. He didn't quite understand all the details of the game, and she looked at me at one point, rolled her eyes, and smiled as she had to explain to him some of the rules. It was pretty funny. So it's a generational game.
Well, you know what? That's a good dad. You taught the daughter how to watch a game.
That's right. She knows all the details. So, she texts me now and tells me all about what the Giants are doing wrong. And one of the questions she had today was, just exactly what you're talking about. Now, I know we want to not talk bad out or say too much about the manager.
No, not at all.
But you know, I wanted to get your thoughts. Why do you think Tony is, not bringing these guys in? Because I was deeply frustrated watching the game. I mean, I was thinking Susak, come on, he should be starting. And I was thinking Cost, too. I mean, I wasn't so sure about Encarnacion, but yeah, bring him in, give, put him in at first.
Well, Jim, there's times of the season, Jim, where that bench is important. And for 22 games, you really haven't seen too much of Koss. And Koss was a lightning bolt last year. He had some great games. He's the guy that you want as a middle infielder. He can play third, short, or second. He hasn't played at all. And this guy's, like I said, a lightning bolt. He could spark a team. He hits the ball. He makes contact. He's a good defensive player. You got guys that have been playing every inning of every game, and it's going to mount up to an injury. It's going to mount up to guys getting really tired. And today, after 12 innings yesterday, 9 innings on Friday, then you had a 3-game series in Cincinnati. Their legs are going to get tired. Their arms are going to get tired, and that's where your bench plays a big part of your roster. That's why you have bench players. You need to use them in different scenarios. Today was that day. Susak, Encarnacion, and Koss should have got playing time. And that's why I say Tony's a great manager. I like the guy. He talks his mind. He tells you what he feels. But there's got to be a discussion of when to start using some of your roster. And today when I saw that lineup come out, and it was a late lineup, which only means they were talking about it, and then Dave Fleming said on the TV side that him and Tony were talking about it, and Tony said, yeah, I've been thinking about it, but I just went with my lineup. Well, those are the opportunities where other coaches need to say, we need to get these guys playing. Your daughter is right. I think I'm right too. You have to use your bench, and today, with an off day tomorrow, would have been a perfect way to do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. The surprise was, for me with, especially with Koss, because he reminds me of Gilbert, right? Gilbert's got fire.
Yeah.
Koss has fire. He kind of gets everybody going, and you want that excitement. It seems like, to me, the Giants actually got a spark when they got into a fight a couple games back, and that kind of
I think a lot. Everybody has been saying that, and it does. It brings the team together. I said this on the Friday night post-game show. They got on that plane, and they were more together as a team because you got in front of faces in the Reds, and you were going to do a little confrontation, and it does get the blood flowing. It does get your teammates watching your back, and it does make that team, that confidence and that team rah-rah spirit go. And they came into Washington swinging the bats, and they unloaded the first 2 games. And maybe that was a spark they needed. Maybe that was something they needed to get going, and that's what we've been waiting for. We've been waiting for this offense to score double-digit runs. They scored 10 runs. That's the most runs they scored on Friday. They come back yesterday, and you're looking at this team battling for 12 innings. I really felt that momentum was on their side today. I really did, and it just didn't come to fashion.
Yeah, I'm with you. Bill, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Jim, thanks for the call and thanks for the memories. I appreciate you remember back in the 80s, and it's always a pleasure talking, and make sure you call me a little bit more, but thanks for the call. All right, coming up next as we get done with our phone calls today on a Sunday, I sit down with Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers was a 5-time National League All-Star, a most MLB earned run average leader in 1982 when he was on the All-Star team. He was elected into the Montreal Expos Hall of Fame, and he was also inducted into the Canada Hall of Fame. A great pitching conversation coming up here with Steve Rogers. That's it. We're going to do that next right here on the Extra Inning Postgame Show on KNBR.
KNBR, the sports leader. This is KNBR Extra Innings with former Giants right-hander Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Hear him on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR. Play KNBR.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Laskey. I'm delighted to bring in my guest. 5 times he was a National League All-Star. He was a member of the Montreal Expo Hall of Fame. And he also is in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Let's welcome in Steve Rogers. How are you today, Steve?
Well, Bill, I'm doing just fine, thank you. And gosh, you didn't read off half of what I wrote for you about how good I was.
I got to get to that. We still got to talk more. Well, Steve, let me throw this one out to you. 13 seasons, all with the Montreal Expos. You started at Jerry Park and you ended up at Olympic Stadium. Tell me the differences of both ballparks.
Oh, gee, as much as the faithful in Montreal, even to this day, remember fondly the lovely Jerry Park, they didn't have to play there, so they watched some games there, and it was quaint. I will have to say that they conveniently forget that unless you had like a pie shape up from home plate to the front edge of each of the dugouts. If you didn't have one of those 7,000 seats, because I think if you didn't have one of those 7,000, your neck was wrenched because it had no sight lines whatsoever, and so you were looking into the back of the head of the guy towards home plate from you if you were down the lines at all. But I think probably the biggest thing I had against the Jerry Park was unless you had a 20+ mile an hour wind blowing out to right, you had nowhere to pitch because at least it gave you left and center to pitch to. But on calm days, nice, beautiful days up there, you would get and with no wind at all, I mean, the ball could get out of that ballpark anywhere. And so it was less than what you would consider a major league field, but it served its purpose. They knew the Olympics were coming. They'd already made the bid, so they knew they were going to build a dome stadium. The only thing is they never put a dome on it. They never put the retractable roof on it. And it was just a huge lump of concrete, and it was cold. I know you spent some time there, but it seemed cold in early June. It was still retaining the cold from the winter, but it did at least have, major league dimensions. So, as much as the fans didn't like the expansiveness of it, it was much more a major league ballpark. Now, it was also a pitcher's park because the ball didn't jump there. So you have to, you and I would have to say, okay, yes, we were pitchers, so therefore we have a different opinion. But anyway, it was, it wasn't the prettiest thing inside either, but I liked it better.
Well, Steve, you had 129 complete games, 37 shutouts. Amazing. It won't happen again in Major League Baseball.
No.
But the thing that I look at is you had Gary Carter behind the plate since 1974 when he came up to the big leagues. A big battery mate, somebody that you trusted, somebody you had confidence with. What did he bring to the table when you went on the mound every time?
Well, Bill, I've always said that Gary and I grew up together in the major leagues because he was younger by 4 years than I was, but we both were learning our craft at the major league level. And, you have to have the talent like you did, like anyone who makes it to the big leagues, you have to have physical ability, but to stay and to thrive, you're going to have to work really, really hard, and you're going to have to learn. And Gary learned how to catch at the major league level. Because he was really raw when he came in. He was 19. I mean, he had played shortstop all the way through high school, and that was only a year and a half ago. And so it was one of those deals where he truly became a Hall of Fame catcher while learning at the major league level. And that's just unheard of for the catching position. It's just unheard of. And what it meant to me is because we grew up together, he thought 5 or 6 pitches deep with me, and so I'll never forget, I would throw, I'd get real brilliant every now and then in the game, and I'd decide I had to throw a split finger fastball. I mean, I threw it once or twice a game max. And to be sitting there in the 5th inning, having not thrown one of those, but now I've got this epiphany that I'm going to throw a split finger fastball, and I just know I've got a shake to it. I'm setting it in my glove, and down goes the wiggle of the fingers for the changeup, and you go, you got to be kidding me. It just was, it was such a pleasure to throw to somebody who thought like you and you thought like them. And I told him, I'm not going to shake you off. Because if we're on a different page, when you throw down, I'm not going to shake you off. I'm going to step off, and I'm going to tell you to roll it again. But what I really mean is I'm going to go with what you called, because you're back there, that's your job. And I have confidence I'll be able to throw any one of the 5 or 6 pitches that I've got. And if you think should be something, if it, like a left-handed hitter come up there, and if I'm thinking slider in and he calls fastball in, well, that's the same pitch, the same thought process. You're on the same page. And so, but if I'm thinking change up curve and he's thinking crossing fastball somewhere, then we're definitely not on the same page on that, on that call. So
he was successful, though. Steve, he was successful with you, and you guys think alike. And that's where all those complete games come about. It's not a lot of adversity between you and the catcher and setting up hitters a second and third time. Let's talk about the arsenal you threw. Above average fastball, a nice slider, a curveball that I think is elite, and a changeup, and like you said, a split finger, something off speed. But I want to talk about your curveball. You threw that curveball anytime, any pitch, and a lot of times you locked up hitters with 2 strikes with it.
Yeah, and well, I appreciate the analysis. I will tell you, Bill, that everything. Okay, I learned about halfway through my career that the mechanics for the curveball. If I had the mechanics for my curveball, I have mechanics for all my other pitches. So I based everything off of, of being in the proper, mechanical position to throw a curveball, and that everything else fed off of that. But I made my living on the sinker. on ground balls.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's one of those deals where I believe I was a pretty comfortable 0 for 4 because they were going to put 3 balls in play on, you know, or maybe all 4, of course. I didn't strike out that many, but you know, and that was the era where you pitched to contact. You had to, because as a starter, which you know,
Mm-hmm.
you were not only required to throw quality innings, uh, you were you were required to throw a lot of innings. You get to the 7th and 8th, you don't. You know, 5 and 5 was a negative thing back then, and you know, and um, because 5 innings, you hadn't done your job as a starter. But that was the mentality of the game, and that's just the way it was. But yeah, the curveball was the one main weapon against left-handers that I had. You know, and again, that's
That was a great weapon, no question
yeah,
about it. Steve
yeah.
Rogers joined me on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. I want to dissect a little bit. 8 times in your major league career, you went 35 starts. One time you did 40 starts. Now, the other
Yeah.
side of it, 9 times you had over 250 innings in, and one time you had 301 and 2/3 innings. A remarkable career when you're just looking at those numbers. As a pitcher to pitcher, how did you keep your arm in shape? How did you do those things in between starts to keep that arm alive? Because that's a lot of bullets you threw.
Well, I had 1977 was Dick Williams' first year there, and we were just starting to mature with uh, quality major league pitchers and players coming out of the organization, and starting, you know, in the middle of like around 77, we were starting to generate, you know, the production of major league players coming out of our organization. But at that point in time, I had had a couple 3 years in the big leagues,
Mm-hmm.
and when Dick Williams came over, he saw that we were pretty thin, and so we were going with a 4-man rotation and a spot starter for number 5. So it was basically every 4th day, and like you said, with the 40 starts, and so I threw every other day. It was a simple routine that I would, you know, you pitched in the game, you took a day off, and then you pitched on the side, you know, maybe 20 pitches or something, whatever. But you know, and then you pitch in the game. So, hey, I will tell you, there was 1974, and I was the second in the order to or in the rotation to Steve Renko,
Mm-hmm.
very good pitcher, and we broke camp with 8 pitchers. Okay. We broke camp with 8 pitchers, and it went Rinko Rogers off day rain, Rinko Rogers off day
I
rain,
love
Rinko Rogers.
it. That's great.
and Rink threw a complete game. I had 2 complete games. The bullpen had I think the bullpen had 6 or 7 innings for the first 10 days. So it was,
Well,
it was,
Steve, you
it
know,
was
the
cool.
thing about it is, you know, people don't understand now what the game has changed so much is to complete a game nowadays is remarkable. But
Yeah,
in
it is.
our time of when we pitched, you didn't want to go to the bull. You didn't want the ball to leave your hand. You wanted to complete the games. And there's no question in these complete games in the 7th and 8th and 9th inning, you struggle a little bit, but you fought your way
Sure.
through it. But the
Yeah.
mental part of the game, I really would love to hear what your thoughts are in the end of the game, the 7th and 8th and 9th inning. What were you thinking back
Well, and you know that all what you're thinking, and I would think you would have to agree, is developed in the first 6 or 7
then? Yeah.
innings. What worked in the first 6 or 7 innings? My first spring training, Gene Mock came up to me, you know, I in '73 in spring training, and he said, you know, you're going to have to learn how to relieve yourself
Hmm.
because we got to get you to the ninth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if your power pitches, your hard slider, your cross seam fastball, your hard pitches, you're going to lose velocity, and so you start relying on the sinker, you start relying on the changeup curve and the curveball, and you have to change your game and in essence become another pitcher because there was no setup man. You were looking to go to the closer. Now the closer could come in the eighth as almost as regularly as the ninth. I mean, in other words, it was a little different on what the closer, the guy out of the bullpen, the one that's going to stop everything. They two innings was not unusual. So
We'll take a quick break and come back with more with Steve Rogers right here on the Extra Inning Postgame Show.
KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey keeps the postgame rolling live right here.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
On KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM. The sports leader.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Postgame Show. More with Steve Rogers. And you start thinking about what you faced. You always face the number ones in other teams. You were the ace of the Expos for all 13 years. I really believe that. The quality of the pitcher that you're going against, do you think about that? Do you adjust to it? Or is this more or less, okay, I just got to keep putting zeros on the board? Because I remember Don McMahon, my pitching coach, used to say, keep doing exactly what the opposition did. If they give up a run, then you got to shut them down. If they don't, then you got to put a zero on the board. You got to match the aces because the aces usually don't give up more than 1 or 2 runs. I see this on your stats. But did you think about that going into that game?
Well, and again, we had no interleague. It was 2 divisions, so you played, 3 home and homes, 3 home and home series in your own division, and then a 2 in the opposite division, and so there was familiarity. I mean, you didn't have to manufacture anything, but I think my lifetime record against Steve Carlton is 13-11. And so I figure those 2 are the 2 in the mini series back in '81, which is now the division series and was actually then, but it was called the mini series. But it was one of those deals where you don't necessarily worry about the other pitcher. It's going to be a low run game, just like you said, but you got to get their hitters out. So Schmidt, Lazinski, and Maddox, and then you go down that lineup, and so you knew your job. While zeros are always what you strive for.
Well, and there's a name you just mentioned, Steve, Mike Schmidt. You overpowered him. You got him ground balls. He only hit 216 off you, 27 for 125 when you're looking at numbers like that. I faced him too. He was a power hitter. You couldn't throw the same pitch twice. He was always trying to outguess you or understand what you want to throw in your repertoire. What did you do against, you just mentioned Lazinski and Schmidt, 2 power right-handers. What were some of the, ways of going at him? Did you change it up second and third time around?
Well, Schmidt was exactly that, a smart hitter, which is what you alluded to. And in the first 3 at-bats, let's say a complete game, you're going to pitch, and in the first 3 at-bats, he would, if you could hit the outside inch, if you could paint the outside 3 times, he'd go sit down. He said, okay, fine. Yeah, don't miss, big boy. Don't miss. And so you just, and then pretty soon it's almost in your head because he's taken perfect pitches and not offered at him. And so now later on in the game, you're thinking, okay, he's got to be sitting on it now. He's got to be sitting on it now. So it was that cat and mouse game. But you said 216. Okay. I will tell you, I think if you look at another column, he's got 7 home runs off of me.
He does.
Yep. He
7
beat
home
me.
runs, 3 triples, 5 doubles, but still, when you're looking at the average.
With 6 of those. He beat me with 6 of those.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't consider it. I'm proud of the fact I was competitive against him, but he did what he did to be a Hall of Famer against me. And I will tell you, I'll never forget one. I hadn't thrown him a sinker the whole game, and I stayed away from him, and he had a pop up and 2 strikeouts. Okay, so now we're up. We got 2 outs, got a runner on second base, and we're gonna, they come out and ask me what I want to do. I said, well, if I fall behind him, I will, I'll walk him. But if you want, that's what I want to do. He said, okay, fine. So I just missed with a slider away, and I said, I haven't thrown him a sinker all day long. Well, I did. Inside off the plate, probably 6 inches, and down possibly at the knees or a little lower. He did an inside out uppercut swing, inside out uppercut swing, and hit the foul pole down the right field line for a 2-run home run.
The strength of the arms too did that.
And I said,
inside out is even worse. I mean, you're probably, how in the hell did you hit that?
That's exactly what I said the next day. I said, because I got to know Schmitty. I said, Schmitty, where the hell did that swing come from? And he kind of laughed and everything. But so, that's he didn't accidentally get in the Hall of Fame. So
a few more minutes with Steve Rogers. Of course, Steve, you were inducted into the Montreal Expo Hall of Fame, as well as a member of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Two nice honors. When you think about your career in Canada, it was a difficult time. You had to cross borders all the time, back and forth. How hard was it to live up there? That was the question I want. I was up there for only a few months. It's difficult, but you had a whole 13-year career up there. What did you do to maintain, the lifestyle that you would lead in the United States?
Well, it was all the differences that I enjoyed. In other words, it was different than any other city that the rest of the league was playing in, and so if you didn't have success, it was because of those differences, and if you had success, you could embrace the differences. And so guys that would come in and out, had been at other organizations, had seen a lot of different ways that individual cities and organizations, treated the players and everything like this. And so if they didn't do well, and quite often they were on that last shot in their career, they tended to blame the differences. But I was fortunate enough to have success early, and then, got a couple of long-term extensions, and so stayed for the 12, 13 years. And so I always enjoyed it. It doesn't hurt that my first wife was Canadian, and so there was some familiarity with with brand names and things like that. Now that was French, Montreal's French Canada, and in Quebec, and it's not like the prairie provinces, and that's where she was from. But it's still, there was some familiarity. So I'll never forget the very first time we stayed up there year round, and one day it's blowing 50 miles an hour, snowing sideways, and she goes, this is a great day to go to the mall because nobody will be there. Well, they're not there for a reason.
Exactly.
She jumps in the car and drives to the mall and spends 2 or 3 hours there at the mall. I go, oh my Lord. Okay, so
well, the one thing, Steve, all the players loved going up there. It was one of the most beautiful cities in Major League Baseball to walk around, to hang out. The restaurants were fabulous, and you spent 13 years there. Unbelievable. But as we finish up with Steve Rogers here today, when you start thinking back of a memory, something that just stands out in your head in that 13 career, can you think of that and tell me about it?
Yeah, again, it's there was a tremendous source of pride and accomplishment and just excitement standing on the mound for the All-Star game in Olympic Stadium in 1982, and being on the mound with 3 teammates behind me, well, 1 in front of me and 2 more behind me, and then Al Oliver came in. I think I threw 3 innings in that All-Star game. So yeah, he came in after me. So he never was on the field at the same time, but with Dawson and Raines and Carter on the field to start that game. And 60,000 people in Olympic Stadium. It was singularly the most, tremendous feeling in anyone. But I will have to tell you, as far as accomplishments go, the stretch of starts I had in 81 in a split season, culminating in the well, actually, I had a two-hitter against the Mets at the end of the season, and then twice against Carlton and in the miniseries, and then against Royce in the league championship series. And the only thing that I don't have fond memories of are my relief appearance in the game 5 of the league championship, because Rick Monday decided to tell me that I was possibly a better starter than I was a reliever.
Well, Steve, a pleasure to catch up with you today. It's an honor to talk about a great career. Faced each other, got to watch you pitch and dominate, and just a great time today, and I appreciate it.
Well, Bill, it's been a pleasure too, and that's one of the nice things. You're not just talking the talk. You're talking about when you walk the walk. You and I and the guys that make it to the big leagues. It's a special group, and I really appreciate you having me on.
That was Steve Rogers on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show. More coming up right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
Bill is back.
Fired up, bringing it, all excited.
This is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Listen on your Google Home smart speaker by saying play KNBR.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Post-Game Show as we close out a Sunday and a difficult loss by the San Francisco Giants today in Washington, where they got shut out 3-0 on a 9-game road trip. They finished 4-5. Tomorrow's a day off, which is Monday. The Dodgers come into town Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I'll be back on Sports Phone KNBR on Friday, and the Extra Inning Post-Game Show will follow up next Saturday and Sunday when the Marlins are in town. I want to thank my guest today, Steve Rogers. Great interview. If you missed it, that'll be on the All KNBR podcast. I want to thank Raph and Double D for producing the show today. And, of course, all you callers, fantastic baseball conversations today. It's always a pleasure talking to you on every weekend. This is Bill Laskey. Have a great week. I'll talk to you next weekend. More coming up right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.